Well, hey, welcome everybody. We are live here on Facebook and YouTube, and we are excited to have a good conversation today. My name is Chad Lingefeld from LockDoc Security in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's where we're sitting here right now. To my left is Jessica Lingefeld. This is my wife. She's what did we call your title?
Officially, Director of Digital Marketing.
Director of Digital Marketing with our team. And then across there is Aaron Beaver, who typically has been on the other side of the camera throughout the last several weeks while we've been doing these roundtables, but he's joining us today because of the topic that we're going to be talking about with marketing. Also on the panel today is Travis Howell. Travis, introduce yourself to all of the people that don't know who you are.
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Travis Howell. I'm the marketing manager for our family of companies, which is HL Flake and International Key Supply, McDonald Dash, and HE Mitchell companies. So I'm based here in Houston, been with HL Flake for 9 years now. So
very cool. And we're glad to have you here to have this conversation today. We're going to be talking about marketing. And we also have down on the bottom lower level there is Mark Dawson. Good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you, Chad. Thanks for having me today. I'm the owner of Dawson Security Group, just north of Houston in the Woodlands, Texas. I've been in the industry for over 35 years, owned my company now for over 23. And like everyone else, we try to stay on the right side of this marketing game all the time, but it changes rapidly.
Most definitely. And I think one of the things that we want to talk about today is how to tell your story or how to communicate your story to your customer and why that's vitally important and some easy steps to get started if you're not already doing it or some easy things to implement. I want to be very clear up front as we get started down this conversation. This is not all about social media marketing. There's many aspects of marketing from being able to tell your story simply in front of someone, being able to stand up and tell somebody. One of the things that we've talked about a lot around here is, can you easily communicate what it is that you do or what your company is about to somebody on an elevator? So you've got, the elevator pitch is the oldest kind of concept in the game, but can you communicate it to where they actually understand when they walk off that elevator, that they understand what you're talking about? So from that all the way down to the digital side and even social media. And so I don't want to get so broad and vague. I want to get some very actionable, tangible things that you can do. With that said, I think one of the interesting components to kind of drive into that is one of the things that HL Flake is doing. So for the past, I'm not even sure what number week this is, 7 weeks or so.
yeah,
We have been having this Security Leaders Roundtable every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And the reason for that is Travis and HL Flake came and said, hey, look, how can we provide additional value to our customers since we can't have our trade show like we normally do? What can we do to create value for our customer base? And so a lot of the topics that we talk about are not related to products at all. It's not related to the distribution outlet that HL Flake does, but it's connecting people together for growth in their business and connecting them through HL Flake. And I think that's a very cool way to go about it, and it brings a lot of relevancy to HL Flake. Travis, why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts behind this? HL Flake's thing is for the locksmith. Why is that the case, and what does that mean?
well, I mean, so yeah, we realize that, I mean, our business is essentially set up to service the locksmith. And so, with that in mind, we, on the marketing end, we want to try to connect with our customers and try to help build a community, and bring some thought leadership to that conversation. And I think that's why you were originally scheduled to come and teach at our trade show. And so it just made sense. I know I was excited about the class topics that you were going to do. And so we just talked about, hey, how can we transition this or pivot right now, because we're not going to be able to hold these in-person classes. So that was kind of how it came together. And then really just, I'm excited that we're able to kind of bring content to people during this time. And how many people have been showing up has been exciting.
And it's just all a fact of trying to provide some relevant content to your customer base. What do they need at the moment? Well, a lot of us need right now is understanding how to navigate our business in a time of crisis.
Yeah.
There's also other, you guys have been doing other technical training as well, but just trying to gain your knowledge base while we have the ability. Mark, what are your thoughts on kind of finding alternative ways to connect with your customer outside of just trying to show them features of a product?
Well, features of a product are sometimes what sell it, but when you need to connect to your market, uh, sometimes the depth of your company and what you're capable to service is more important than the product you're selling. Some people may have basic security packages that they already understand and they just want to maintain properly. And that's just as important as informing them or educating them on new products when they become available. Just like today, the big push right now is to try to continue to make aware, all of the public needs to be made aware that touchless solutions in the door hardware world are out there. Well, they've been out there for decades, but only now is that awareness really been heightened. And now's the time to take advantage of that, whether it be thermal cameras that are going to monitor temperature, or whether you want to put in stronger card readers where you don't have to make contact, or wave points to open doors. This stuff has been around a long time, and most people have never known a thing about it. So it's not just the product, it's also what you can do to implement service to either improve on what they already have or to implement a new product that they're interested in.
So thank you very much, Mark. So I want to kind of toss over to Jessica on this from a concept that we've been trying to implement at LockDoc and how we're communicating to our customers, more so based off of the problem and trying to identify the problem that they have, less of just the product push. How does that look from your perspective?
So for us, when we're trying to communicate something, we're looking for several things. We're looking to be clear and concise, but also we're looking for what is the problem, and then what is the solution? What solutions can we bring to our customer base that solves the problem that they're having? So that's always been our main objective.
Is just trying to find that solution for them. And what are some of the creative ways that we've been able to do that, or that you could suggest for people to say, hey, okay, I get it. Like, I understand the problem. How can I actually communicate to the customer?
Yeah, that's something that we really put a lot of attention and direction to, because you have a problem, right? So we try to find the problem, and then we try to almost reverse engineer it to the solution. And with it being that, it's not necessarily focused on the actual product. It's more addressing a problem that you have, and we have a solution. Mm-hmm. The reality is that the solution that we provide today, that product will get innovated and it will have a shelf life, right? So if we're addressing the problems that you have, the product is really not the focus. Yep. It's the solution that we can provide. So a lot of what we do here at LockDoc is you come to us, and the product that we have may need to be on a total different level, right? But you know that we solve problems. Mm-hmm. That's what we want you to understand. It's not necessarily the product that we're pushing, because at the end of the day, we all know that it's going to evolve, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're correct. Wave and touchless has been there for years. It's just now there's a problem, mm-hmm. and touchless is the solution. So with the germ spread and all that, so that's something that is very unique to LockDoc and its strategy that I don't think a lot of people really understand.
Travis, I wanted to ask you a question on this, because you've obviously been in the marketing game for a while, and I think we all struggle with this in the security industry. There's so many things, and the number of product lines that you represent, and it can just be a fire hose of information at times.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help to guide people, or how do you guide your marketing strategy, or the way that you're communicating that information, that it's more concise and less so much information that you can't even kind of contain it all?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly comes down to prioritization. I mean, we can't put it all out at once. You have to just select the messaging that you want, and select what products it is, even though we may have 5 different brands that sell the same solution. we probably won't show all of those to you at one time. It's just kind of overload. Yeah, so prioritize and just select which path you're going to go down, and then it really just means for us that we have more content available than we could ever really put out, and that's what, you know, I try to have a balance, or trying to figure out a balance, so that we're not just overloading people, but still being consistent and consistently putting out information. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to
go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, because I don't know that I really fully answered the last question, and what is the main reason that we're doing this? And I think it comes back to thought leadership. And I think that's, you know, what does HL Flake benefit from doing these roundtables? It's that we are putting ourselves out there as hopefully a thought leader within the industry by bringing this information. And I think that's the same thing that your customers look to you for in solutions is, you know, you understand all of the solution options that are out there. So you're the thought leader in that. So
positioning yourself as a thought leader, and what are the elements to do that? And part of being a thought leader is trying to concisely communicate what is important and being able to communicate that effectively. Mark, what have you seen kind of with some of the efforts that you guys have done in your market that have worked, and some things that haven't worked, and you say, hey, this is how we've tried to adjust that?
Well, we've been adjusting. You know, you've also got the business call in the afternoon that's been going on for approximately 8 weeks. And each and every one of us on that call in the afternoon have been brainstorming new ways to market during this situation. And not only new ways, but focusing on what we were doing and polishing those techniques. If you had an email campaign that was very anemic, you could then focus on that campaign and do better with it and start reaching out to your clients. So there are so many different things. I think for the locksmith industry, print media is almost completely evaporated. If there's anyone buying ads in yellow pages, oh my goodness, I mean, it's done. But aside from, like you said earlier, the social content, there are so many avenues to connect with people, whether that be through networking, standing face to face. That too has been a challenge lately. We can't even get out and network. You're seeing networking activities take place on Zoom meetings. We had a Chamber of Commerce breakfast yesterday morning. Normally there's 120 people at that breakfast. We're all on a computer logging into that. And it was interesting that it was as well attended as what it was. There's some personal connections between all of these people. And I hate to say that we're all in this together, because the togetherness that some of us have is not like the togetherness of others. But the marketing aspect of it, because we're all experiencing something similar in our business or in our lives, it lets us connect and continue our relationships and reach out with our marketing efforts to tell that individual that we have a solution for them.
So positioning yourself as a thought leader, I saw a company that was doing an integrator that was doing something very interesting in their market, and they were connecting up with local restaurants, and really trying to promote the local aspect of we want to support reinvesting back into our community. And so they were doing little promotional items where they said, hey, during this amount of time, from this Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m., we're going to match up to a certain dollar value that you spend there. So, go there, spend some money, buy lunch, buy dinner, whatever, and our company is going to put money towards that as well. And it was not anything that was advancing the initiative of that particular integrator. Like, they were just telling people, go spend money at this restaurant, go spend money at this store. But the connectivity of that and the collaborative effort of that, what you just said, Travis, puts them at an elevated level as a thought leader, because they now have the ability to say, hey, we're here for the community. And anytime you now look at that, well, hey, these guys are here for our community, so we want to do business with them. Is that a similar process to what you guys are trying to work on with HL Flake in the aspects that you're dealing with now, Travis?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a good way of saying what we're trying to do with for the locksmith. Um, and really, that name came up, or I mean, I guess it's a hashtag that we've been using because we hear it over and over and over in our internal meetings. Here is what are we doing for the locksmith? Because everything that we do here really is designed around trying to be a better partner to locksmith businesses. So it's that, wanting to be a partner and not just have customers.
Okay, so valid point, Travis. What are you doing? What is LockDoc doing to try to be a better partner for our customers? I'll ask Mark the same question, but what can you actively do? So if you could take an example from an HL Flake and say, hey, they're trying to create good partnerships. How can you do that at whatever level that you're at from a marketing standpoint?
So one of the things that we did not that long ago was we reached out to our customers and we offered a virtual town hall. It was just a place for them to come and talk about, hey, we know this is something that's out of all of our control. We're here for you, but we want to hear from you. How are you dealing with this during this time? So it was an open forum. We had a great participation rate from some of our customers. And these are like property managers, HOA managers. They all kind of weighed in and talked about the things that they were going through. So I think a lot of times just having empathy and listening is what people really want. They want to be heard and they want to be understood. It's a big connection point that can bridge a gap between just being a customer and having a relationship.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Mark made a great point about the community, the Chamber of Commerce. There are a lot of people looking for connections at this moment, and so a normal virtual Chamber of Commerce, nobody would show up, right? I mean, if it was in their normal conditions, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But currently at this moment, everybody's looking for an opportunity to connect. And so finding simple ways to connect with your customers in a way that just could highlight them in an easy way. We're not talking about some elaborate thing.
Yeah.
We're just talking about something very simple. It could put a validation. It could change the community's mindset about you. Very simple. And that's one of the things we do with marketing. We constantly put content out.
That's true.
To bring it to our attention.
I will jump in and say it's not just the external problems that we're focused on, though. The external problems might be like, oh, our building needs cameras, or we need to secure our building. But the internal problem is what we try to focus on, and that is pretty much like solving. The internal problem would be, how do I gain the freedom to see my business when I'm not there?
Right. Right.
So that's been mainly our focus is combining the external problem with the internal and coming up with a solution. So,
what's important to your customers? What's important to them? Because I think what Travis is saying is they're trying to identify that. What is important to your customer, and then how do you provide on that level?
Yeah, that's a tough thing in marketing because what's important to our customers may not be important to us. So it's sometimes very difficult when you bring an idea to the table and you're like, hey, this is a terrible idea because it doesn't affect us at all. It doesn't bring no ROI, right? What's the ROI? The return on investment. But it connects with your customers in a way, like we've done multiple videos about touch points, we've done germs in office, and when you see a lock and security company focus on the 7 germ points, you're like, that has nothing to do with locks and security, right?
So here's a great example. The other day I received an email from a friend, actually one that's been attending, Glenn Younger. He was actually one of the panelists on one of the roundtables. And he forwarded a message from his mortgage broker, I think. Was that who it was?
Yeah, it was his
mortgage broker with bullet points on how to improve the SEO for your website. Okay.
Mortgage broker.
Why would a mortgage broker share that information? Because what else is the mortgage broker going to share right now? But he's connecting with his customers. Okay, my customers are business owners, so this is what I can communicate to them. Because if they can improve their SEO, they can improve their market presence online, then their business is going to grow, and then they're going to need my services. Like, that's the long reach for it. So trying to find that. The other component that I want to move to, any other thoughts on that? Trying to provide value for your customers where they are.
Well, I just wanted to add that I'm not ashamed to say it, but I'm honest when I say we didn't have a lot of mechanisms in place to connect with our community. So what we did do was we reached out to our clients the old-fashioned way, which is still a valid way to market.
Right.
By a telephone.
Yeah.
And we did wellness checks as we went through this, all the way even up to last week. We were still doing them, and now we're starting to repeat some of our main clients. How are you doing? Are you getting back to normal? Are you open yet?
Sure.
Can we start that project that we put on hold?
Yeah.
These are all the things that you've got to reconnect with now. And sometimes the old-fashioned voice technique is still the most personable and the most result-driven.
Yeah, it's a human interaction, and sometimes the Zoom, even though it's face to face, can get a little. You can do something else, but when you're on the phone, talking to someone, it brings back that connection.
So I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit to the simplicity of your message. So, and I want to use HL Flake as an example on this because I think this is something that we miss a lot of times in the security industry, and we've been harping on this on our business meeting. The "it depends" category, right? So you ask us what we do, well, it depends. Or how can you do this? Well, it depends. Like there's so many variables in our industry. When it comes down to creating a message and crafting a message for your customer base and for your customers. So for instance, HL Flake for the locksmith. You said it kind of has come across because that's what are we doing for the locksmiths? What are we doing for the locksmith? When you promote that as your story, right? Promote that as your tagline, there's no doubt in anybody's mind what HL Flake is about. They're for the locksmith. It's simple. You don't have to say, we distribute manufacturers products of locking hardware and electronic access control products to the locksmith and security industry. You just say, we're for the locksmith, right? It's simple. It's easy to digest. It's easy to understand. I know for our business over the years, we've made it way too complicated for our customers to understand what we do. And because we have this 25 seconds to tell them everything we do, we give them this just flabbergasted information of all of the stuff that we could possibly ever do, and then they're just overly confused. Simplicity of your message. So that's kind of where I want to start here. How are we complicating our message to our customers, and what are the things that we can do to simplify it?
And that's a tough one.
That is a tough one. Yeah, I mean, we
Wow.
have, we have a value statement that gets into all these bullet points. And you're right, you can, by the fourth or fifth bullet point, it all just, you start to lose,
Yeah.
It is definitely a less is more when getting a message across. I think we all have a shorter attention span than we used to. But.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right. Like you said, we've been discussing this and beating it down in that business meeting, but the truth of the fact is we're all technicians at heart, and we talk all this technical jargon that people are not connected to, and they don't need to hear that to make a sale. So what we've done is we've tried to keep that a little bit more simple as well, which is describe the path you need to be on. We are here to help you achieve the layers of security you need help with at this time. So simple statement, kind of like the elevator pitch thing. If you can master, that 10 to 15 seconds to let people know what you can do for them, that's what they want to know. And then they may remember you for that as well. But when people need help, they don't want to hear that this product has this kind of finished warranty and this kind of mechanical warranty. That's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. No, it's very true. So I can share a little bit about our kind of story. Part of this was crafted because years ago, and I've told this story a couple of times. Years ago, we had an opportunity to do some kind of customized television marketing. So it was a local morning show here in our market, and they said, hey, you come in and you get like 3 or 4 minutes to kind of do a Q&A back and forth. It was like an interview style advertisement. And so the first episode, it was like a series of about 4 or 5 of these. And the first episode, we got on there and we brought every display that was ever known to man. We had, all of the gadgets and gizmos and an entire table full of stuff. It took us, 20 minutes to set up. And we get in there and they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, we do everything. We can have a key, and then you can have a camera, and then you can do this thing and this thing and this thing. And then like the host was confused. They had no idea. And ultimately it was not a successful pitch. And it's online. You can go Google it if you want, and you can see the miserable attempt at it. But the lesson that we learned from that is whenever we have an opportunity to stand in front of somebody, keep it simple and keep it as one thing. The lessons we learned out of that was we came in and we said, here's a camera. You can see this camera on your phone. We're done. Like, that was the simplicity of it. Now, can we do more than that? Absolutely. But we can only communicate one idea at a time, and we were trying to take advantage of that one stage and share all the ideas. When it comes down to crafting that story for your customer, it kind of set that instance set us on this pattern of how are we making things too complicated. And I was introduced to a philosophy by a friend of mine, Marcelo, who said, hey, here's this guy, his name is Donald Miller, and he has this philosophy on story brand, simplifying and clarifying your message. And it was the hardest thing to go through, because when you talk about a company that has 4 major different categories of services, from locks, doors, security systems, and key card systems, and now you've got to simplify that into one statement that resonates with everybody, it can be very, very complicated, because all of us want to say, well, how do we create a long sentence that encompasses all of those factors? And it's a very complicated thing. So we started going down a path to try to simplify that. And what did that look like for us?
Oh my goodness. It looked like a hot mess at first. I believe you read the book in 2018 and handed it off to me, and I read it, and it sat there for a while because I was just overwhelmed. I was like, how are we going to fix everything that's wrong with what we're doing? But it basically, the story brand helps you send a clear message in order to boost your own business. So you basically are trying to do 3 things. You're trying to say who you are, the services you offer, and why the customer should choose you over the competition. So it was that whole process that we went through, and there was a lot of rough drafts and things that I threw out there where I said, hey, we should say that we do this, and it was shot down, and multiple things were shot down, but we eventually came up with our tagline, and now it's all over everything, but our tagline is we help you protect your people and property. And that basically encompassed all of our products and services. Our end goal is to ensure that the customer is the hero and that they know that we're there to guide them to the right solution. So that's the short of it.
So a question for you, Aaron, because Aaron is our content creator, how has that helped to craft what you're trying to create as we're developing content to share with customers?
Well, so let me start with this. At LockDoc, we have core values, and our core values help us decide every decision that we make here at LockDoc goes through our core values. Now, as it's related to our content, we didn't have core values, but our mission statement, our statement that we put out now, all of our content that we go through that is now a funnel to say, hey, can this pass through that? Does this help us reinforce the painstaking hours, the months, the arguments, right, that we had over this statement? Because when we all had a stake in this, we all felt very passionate about it. And so now when it comes to our content and our marketing, we really make sure that it aligns up with that, because we want to make our customer the hero. Here at LockDoc, we are not the hero. We want you to be the hero, right? You are the hero. At the end of the day, you're going to handle this equipment that we provide to you. We don't hold hands. And so this is something that we have done. And for me as a content creator here at LockDoc, I have knowledge of the industry, but very limited. And so by having limited knowledge has helped me to make sure that anything that I create, any verbiage that I get, just to make sure it passes into this parameter, I don't have to know, the lock and the key, right? I don't have to know all the intricacies of it. Is it a pin cut on the side? I don't know, but I know it matches up with our statement.
Mark, what are your thoughts on the simplification of that? I know you mentioned that you've simplified your message as well, but what are the results that you've had? I would imagine that you've run into these same situations before.
We have, and before I comment on that, I had a follow-up. I'm not trying to become the moderator here by any means. Jessica,
Yes.
what was the aha moment that you had as the digital content manager that said, we really need to embrace this story branding process? How did that click and what did that look like?
Um, well, I think everybody wants to be successful. Everyone wants to be number one in their market. And basically, this is a playbook. It lays out a formula. It's a 7-part framework, and it says if you follow these things, you will end up being successful. And I don't know about you, but I really enjoy success. So I'm going to chase it. But one of the things about the story brand framework is that there's 7 parts to it. It helps you create and craft a catchy message, something that's going to work specifically for you and your business, because your business might not be like ours. We know the type of demographic that we're trying to reach, and that's unique to everyone's market. So it's definitely not something that can be just stamped all over anybody else's business. You have to go through the process and find what's going to work for your in particular business. But basically, in any story, there's a main character who is the customer, and they have a problem. So the storyline goes, we're the guide, and we help them find the path to success. And it seems simple. It can be a little drawn out and complicated when we have several people discussing how it should be.
Yeah.
But that's basically, we're trying to help the customer reach success. So their success is our success.
Yeah. Mark, one of the things that I know when I came on staff here, that was one of the first things that Chad challenged me in, is like, hey, you need to embrace this. This is what we're doing. And I remember we had a very energizing conversation.
There you go. Yeah,
Is that
that works.
as a way to put
Sure,
it?
yeah.
But walking through this story brand, they talk about clarity and static. And I think that's one of the areas that really connected with me. It was like, okay, wait a minute, I can get with this because I understand static. I understand just white noise. I understand there's a lot of advertisement out there. And like when you said, Travis, for the locksmith, right? It's a message that pierces through all of the other static of all of the other distributors or all of the other products. It's like, wait a minute, this aligns with me and helping you protect your people and your property. Hey, I want my property protected. I want my people protected. It connects very well. And so that was one of the things that when I quit fighting it, because I fought it hard, because I was like, we are the hero. And once I like understood that, it was a pivotal moment for me. So that was.
No, and to Mark, to your question, I think that was a very good question, because it opened up this understanding that it was a challenging conversation. It wasn't the easiest thing. Like, you'll read some books or you'll go through some process and say, oh, that makes sense. Okay, we can apply that. This philosophy is so backwards from what our typical mind works from a marketing, because and one of the things that Donald Miller addresses in his whole philosophy early on is the fact that you're not the hero. Your customer is the hero, and you're there to be a guide to help them get to that point. And it infuriates you when you first start that process, right? Because it's like, no, I've been working a long time to know this stuff because I am the hero. And you're like, oh, okay. And once you get through the process, then it starts to break that apart as to why it's important that you are the guide. And at the end of the day, we said it at the beginning of this conversation today, is that we're problem solvers at the heart of it, right? And so that's what we do, is we can solve problems for people. But what we have to understand is how our role aligns as a guide to help people solve the problems, and then they're the ones that get the glory or the accolades for that problem being solved, because that's what we do in the service industry. And that's what changed the thought process on it and caused us to embrace it. And every person that we've gone through it since then has had a difficult task grasping it until you actually see it in play.
You know, you said something that was very interesting to me, that the process is so backwards from normal marketing expertise. And I am guilty of allowing others who resisted that idea when I pitched it to them after I learned about story branding that I allowed them to push me back into the traditional methods. I've got a website that's under redevelopment right now because it was going to be no charge from my web company. They do a typical retemplating every 2 to 3 years. And when that thing goes live in a few weeks, what I have done is I've shortened the message under each one of our heading topics to more reflect story branding. We can help you achieve this type of observation solution. We can help you achieve this type of key control solution, rather than just pages and pages of information, Medico, X4, Click, Primus, all these things we can tell people on a website. It's not necessary anymore if you connect with that person.
And I think on top of that too, Mark, and kind of the point back to the original, I think the original conversation or the idea for this topic today is, how are you regularly sharing that content? So don't think of it as this is my only opportunity to tell everything that I can do, but how can I regularly share little bits of information? I can't give you everything because you're not going to be able to digest it all. Nobody is, right? And we've talked about this before. It's 7 times before somebody actually gets it. You have to tell somebody 7 times before they actually get it. So if you're trying to get everything that you can ever offer to them in one conversation, then it's going to be difficult for them to grasp a hold of it. So how do you break it down into small segments and then trickle it out on a regular basis?
Good. That's good.
Well, using multiple areas of connectivity to the public is what ultimately brings people back to your website. So what Glenn Younger shared with us from his mortgage lender, that story was related about blogging. Blogging and podcasts, you guys do tremendously. You've got a lot of input into it, and you're constantly putting information out there that's not industry related. Yet it does connect back, if you think about it, how to help a customer budget. When you do a blog about that, and you're telling those people you understand their budgeting process. So here it is, almost June. We're halfway through this year. It's going to be a struggle for all of us. But if we understand the budgeting process, we're now talking to our clients, telling them we can help you next year with no problem. And we're in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Very true. It's a very valid statement because you're positioning yourselves, going back to what Travis said earlier, as a thought leader.
Yeah.
Travis, any additional thoughts on that, simplifying the message and then kind of trickling that information out on a regular basis rather than just trying to get it all in one conversation?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I guess you already talked about repetition. Sometimes as the person that may be producing the content and sending it out, it may feel like, wow, we're really hitting this over and over and over. But, repetition is key, and your customer probably isn't perceiving it the same way that you may be. So
that's good.
There are times when I'm like, wow, I feel like we have a newsletter that we would do monthly, and we would change the heading each time and talk about one value statement, whether that was selection or whether that was our speed to market or, and I felt like, wow, we've been saying that same message over and over, but our customer probably doesn't perceive it that way. You need to just keep repeating it.
So one of the stats that I heard on the social side, and then you can look at the email marketing and you can look at website traffic and all of those things, but on the social side, a statistic that I heard one time was only 3% of your followers see every piece of content that you put out. So you could be killing it and putting out the best content ever, but only 3% of people are going to actually see all of it. So you got a big gap there. So repetition is not a bad thing. It's only going to affect that small 3% that sees everything. You go like, why are they posting the same thing over and over again? But you're trying to get it to a broader market and a broader audience. How does that play into, just from your perspective, the type of content that you're creating and how you're continuing that consistency of messaging? So you've simplified your message, and now you have to be consistent with it.
So I think consistency plays a big part in marketing. Mm-hmm. You've got to be consistent in whatever you do, whether it's your social posts or regular blog content going out. That works for your SEO content and searches. But a customer's not going to choose. We all sell the same products: cameras, doors, locks, keys. But a customer might pick us over somebody else, over a competitor, because we can solve their internal problems. So a lot of our content is crafted to do that, to solve, to look for the internal problems and again, try to solve those. So whether it's they want more free time and not to be tied to their business, or and the ability to be able to see what's happening at their business, well, that's the problem, and we work backwards towards that. The external products that we have always are going to perform a lot better when they're combined with the internal problems.
Yeah.
So I think consistency is key in pushing that stuff out.
For sure.
What do you think, Aaron?
One of the things that Jess does great here is consistency. So we have things that go out regularly, like timed every day, and there are a few pivotal conversations that we've had that really focus and highlight the importance of our consistency. Our podcast that happens every Tuesday, 9 a.m.
That's correct.
Rain, shine, it happens constantly. But I remember Chad was in a meeting, and a gentleman that's sitting across the table was like, "Hey, I just saw you on Facebook on a podcast," and had no idea, has never commented on anything, didn't follow, but he just saw it in a casual post that somebody reposted. And so the consistency of just constantly putting it out there, at some point in time, I believe that we've made a lot more sales just because we're more closer on your feed. And when you go to make a decision, if you've scrolled through any of those, the last thing that you saw was the green logo or something around town, and you're like, "Oh, have you thought about LockDoc?" And so I think that's a big thing that we do very well.
So I was talking to someone earlier today, and they made this statement, and I want to pose this statement out and get your thoughts on it. We'll go Travis, then Mark, and then Jessica and Aaron. So the statement was this: the death of a brand is invisibility. What does that mean to you?
Means stay in front of your customers as often as possible. And I think I was mentioning this before we started, but I think if you have any question whether or not you should do a marketing activity, you should just do it. You should just go ahead and do it. And I know that having a schedule is a great way to you have to put it on a schedule and have a deadline in order to be consistent. So
schedule it is going to help with the consistency, but just to be consistent.
Yeah, just to be consistent. And, I think, Chad, remind me again, what was the gentleman's name that you had on your podcast a few weeks ago? That was
Jake Failing.
Jake Failing, and it was just hit record.
Just press record, yeah.
Just press record. That was a great podcast. If anybody wants to go back and look at that one, and it's basically, if you've had in the back of your mind that I should start doing video or I should start posting on whatever platform it is, you should just do it. You should just don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for the production value to be where you think it should be. Just start.
It's good.
Mark, what are your thoughts? The death of a brand is invisibility.
Okay, I would completely agree with that. But there's two things we have to look at. The death of your brand publicly means you're not doing any outreach at all to the public around you to make your business grow or even sustain it into the future. Then you can have the death of your brand to your own clients. And the reason why I divided those two is because I know some locksmiths who are very successful one-man operations, and they do no advertising at all. No social, no nothing. So for you guys out there, you still have to market to your clients. If all you want to do is maintain those 15 property management companies you're doing all those master key systems for, that's great. But you still have to be in front of them. You still have to provide the solutions to them. And you have to do it regularly. You can't just sit back and wait for them to call.
So that may mean actively calling your customers on a schedule.
There you go.
That's good.
Jessica, the death of a brand is invisibility.
It's a very good thing to think about, but I think that it's important to have an online presence. A lot of times people want to hide who they are or what they believe or what they know. or any experiences that we've had, but people grow from you sharing those experiences. And what better way to connect with somebody than to be your authentic self, to share your knowledge, and especially your values. We really value sharing and talking about our core values, and that's at the heart of our operations. So it's something that you're able to demonstrate your wisdom and your leadership in the industry. So there's no reason to hide it. You definitely want to be out there.
Yeah, so I think, Mark, the way you split that up was great, and the two different areas, because you've got your current clients that you already are, they're your family. They're the people you're doing work for. They're the people constantly. And I think a lot of times we want to, go to social, right? And just our customers will see it, right? And we kind of lose that side of it and don't realize or take care of the market that we have already, right? Our customers that we're doing work for now. And so I think that's a very, if you say, okay, I don't know where to, the social stuff, I don't know. But you've got customers that you can do stuff with, that you've already made a connection with, right? You've already provided a service to them. And the next thing is, I'm a tech guy. So equipment, mics, we have so much equipment in this room currently in this moment, just an unbelievable amount. But I will challenge you, you don't have to have this. Where LockDoc started and what you started from, Chad, was drastically different. Yeah. This studio was running with $150 cameras until just here recently, and it doesn't have to be some Hollywood production. Work on the clearness and consistency in your message. Keep it short and post it. Just put it out there.
The death of a brand is invisibility. Just press record, great value add, and stay in communication with your customers, whatever that looks like. That's marketing. If it's picking up the phone, like Mark said, and doing wellness checks. Hey, how are you doing? How's business? How's life? What's happening? That is a form of marketing, because you're showing value to your customer because you have a connection point with them. If it's email marketing, crafting a simplistic message that is relevant to your customers, I think the takeaway is, and this is a rule of thumb, is this information that I'm sending out shareable?
Yeah.
Would somebody else that gets this want to share it or see value in sharing it with somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. If it's just self-promotion, if it's just like, hey, look what we did, which we've done that a lot, then somebody's probably not going to forward that. Right. There's no reason for them to share that. But is this information something that they can look at and go, hey, I need to send this to Bob, Tom, and Jill, because they're going to be able to do something with this? Then you have your website. Obviously, it's the core of your communication, something that you definitely need to work on and constantly work on.
Yeah.
A lot of times we falter so much into social media, and I'm a huge fan of social media. You will never hear me say social media doesn't work, but your website is your foundation. Everything is going to come back to that. And then on the last half of that is making sure that you're regularly sending out communications and content that is value add, not self-promotion.
It's good.
We fell into this a long, long time ago, and we've tried to craft out of it as best we can. But in our social media, we went from, hey, look at what we did, 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 to trying to say, here's something that helps you. Here's something that's of value to you. Here's what we're about. Here's how this is helping you. And trying to shift your content more so to that than less about what you did, and trying to be basically bragging on your capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. We have a lot of very cool jobs that we get to take part of, and our employees send us some really cool photos.
They do.
But a lot of times those don't make it to the social, because that's not really what we're pushing. That's not the agenda. That's not the value add that we're seeing.
Yeah. We really pivoted from going to, hey, look at us, to, hey, here's 3 ways that you can improve your business, or seven tips to. Or 7 places where germs
and
live.
We've seen more engagement out of it. Like, we've seen more interaction, comments, inquiries from that than we did the other way.
So the question that I would challenge everybody on that's watching this is, at the end of the day, the information, whatever it is that I'm putting out, if it's an email, website, if it's social media, is this something that actually is relevant and means something to my customer? And so we went back to some of the old stuff that we had. Hey, here's a really cool picture of this door that maybe we installed a really neat lock on, or put a cool exit device on. Does the customer know what that is? Right? So just trying to think in that process and trying to create value for your customer base. Any closing thoughts, Travis and Mark, before we get out of here?
I mean, that conversation right there was helpful for me. Even, thank you for that. That's great. Because I think a lot of times, I'm not necessarily thinking about what we're sending out from that point of view. So, yeah, it's great.
Very cool. Mark?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Chad. Content that has value, posts that have value, anything that makes somebody say, I'd like to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Let me reach back to their primary point. Whether you put that link in there, that hashtag that gets you right back to a website, or whether it says, call me today.
Yeah.
Talking is free. Call me today. So many people are afraid to voice communicate now. They would just rather text and look at something. And I tell people all the time when they want to get engaged in long conversations through email that it's easier to talk than type. Just give me a call and let's hash this out. We'll give you some guidance.
That's
Very
good.
good. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. I think this was a valuable conversation. If anybody's watching this, hopefully they can take some action out of it and make some adjustments and implement them. Thank you, HL Flake. Thanks, Travis, for bringing all this together over the last couple of weeks. And we haven't quite decided what our topic is going to be next Thursday, but we'll be here to continue to communicate and try to continue to add value to our industry for as much time as possible. Thank you, Aaron and Jessica, for your time here today, and we will see you guys next week.
Do you want to talk about your meeting?
Sure, yeah. Anybody that's interested, Mark mentioned it. We every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, we put a website together. It's called businessmeeting.online, and you can go there and check it out. And it is a open, free call. We talk about business ideas and try to implement that. On Monday, we talk about marketing. On Tuesday, we talk about operations. On Wednesday, we talk about leadership and team building. On Thursdays, we typically talk about KPIs and metrics, performance metrics, and how your business, the health of your business. Today, we're actually talking about the future vision of your company. And then on Fridays, we talk about business development ideas. We don't talk a lot of product. And Mark can attest to that. We fight to get away from product and more on process and operation, and try to be better businesses. So we've tried to take this time when things have slowed down and the economy slowed down and we've all had to pivot and adapt and try to focus on what we can do to be better businesses outside of this. And we've kind of adapted the phrase, let's make lemonade, and try to be better on the other side of this. So you can find out more about that at businessmeeting.online. Thank you, Travis. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining us.